finish by sharing some special thoughts about what your impact has been on our hospital specifically. So I will get into the presentation, and I just want to talk about foundation, because as all of you know, we were blessed to move into our beautiful new hospital building. We had our legacy site, but in order to frame everything that we do for our patients and families, we needed a professional practice model to guide our decision making. And as all of you know, having a solid foundation is one of the key factors for success in the future. And so as the basis for everything that we do within nursing research and the program that we have done in order to keep all of our patients and families at the center is that we have a professional practice model called Focus. We're not here today to go into this, but just to remember that this is all about keeping families and patients at the center of everything that we do. It's your mission and vision that you shared today about having fun, but also about helping children and their families. And that is the core. That's what makes Shriners amazing, and you're going to see the impact of everything that you have helped us to do within the nursing research program. So we do focus a lot on OI nursing research, except that this is the foundation that builds off into all of the different diagnoses that we treat at the hospital. It is just that we took one area of focus and then we build upon it. But we have an amazing nursing research team as they take our professional practice model and remind us that there are issues for the parent and the child, or the patient, the child, the family, that we need our partnerships, we need to seek innovation, and then we need to share those research findings because we can't keep them for ourselves. So we're going to speak first about the child-focused research that is going on. And each of the different projects that I'm speaking to you about is one tiny research, well, not a tiny, it's a research area on one slide, but there's an enormous amount of work that went into it, and it just shows you the impact. And for those of you who maybe don't know, I should have maybe started with this at the beginning, but our research program began in 2013, and it began by Mr. Ingram of the Newton Foundation, related to the School of Nursing at McGill University, saying to us, if you can find a funding matching partner, we will match the funds for you to create a nursing research program. We are the only nursing research, or the first ever established nursing research program within the Shrine system, because of you, because we needed the funding partners to begin that. And there are 2 other nurse scientists across the other 22 Shrine sites. However, we are the only site with an entire nursing research program, and that is entirely because of your commitment. Because Mr. Ingram put out a carrot to us back in 2013, but nothing would have started if you hadn't come on board and said, yes, we support you, we're behind you. So you need to remember that everything that you see here was started because of you, and we are grateful for that forever and ever and ever, but the impact that we can do in really shaping the lives of children is amazing. Wait till you see some of the things that we've been doing. So one of the first projects is to hear the voice of the child and to have open communication. That's part of our professional practice model. That's the O for open communication. But we need to hear about how patients are actually living with their different diagnoses. But you can't just take that from what they say in the interaction in the clinic. You need to do some research about that to publish it and to evaluate it. So we have done some ethnographies of looking at what patients are publishing on their social media, on YouTube videos, on their Facebook, and we bring that all together because that shapes for us what their true needs are. Where do we need to go? How do we need to shape clinical care? And it's important to not only do the research, but to make sure that you bring that back and you change the clinical care delivery directly at the hospital and one-on-one with the patients and families. Because we need to always strive to provide excellence in our patient care, but we need to do it based on what the patients themselves are telling us. So this is one way, and we have an entire evaluation of how children are expressing their living with their diagnoses. Other ways that children have diagnosed some of the issues that they're dealing with is through art. And so we have an entire art therapy division of the nursing research program where children can actually participate and describe some of the things that they are feeling and living with and what they would like us to actually focus on in future areas of care as we develop. We have also done different studies looking at transition and when they're leaving from their pediatric care, which is quite a bit easier, and you know how the adult healthcare system is, going into adult healthcare system, all the different issues and struggles that came out of that. We have done pilot projects where we are able to look at the transition from kids going from pediatric to adult, and they showed us some of the different issues that they were dealing with, but what we needed to do to help them actually become more successful as they grow throughout their adolescence and then transition into their adult lives. We need to also look at efforts to alleviate distress. And with the emergence of the emojis, it's been a little bit easier to talk about special things such as pee and poo, and I'm sorry I'm using those terms, but that is what we need to speak about when we're talking about kids who deal with these issues. It's hard to talk about that, but in different ways of looking at making it okay to speak about that. We brought in a researcher actually that was a partner with us from Brazil that actually did her entire area on bowel and bladder issues, and she came and helped work with our team to help really make this so that it was a comfortable discussion that you could have about real life issues, and we all need to deal with this every day. So it's not something to be hidden, it's something that we need to talk about. We also need to create resources for our children, and many of you have seen the fracture kit that was spearheaded by Carter Brown and his mother and supported by Caleb. And this has been amazing because kids do not have to live with the fear of fracture. They don't have to fear about going out to the playground or traveling, because they were able to create a fracture kit so that if they fracture, which happens if you have brittle bone disorder, that they have their kit with them, they can immobilize their fracture, and they can still go on and participate in the activities that any of their friends can participate in. And the coloring book is one of the nursing-led projects that was created in order for distraction. So if they needed to go to the emergency room, they could color. In the fracture kit is a memory game. They can be distracted by that. There are different stress-relieving tools like the stress bone, different things of this sort to provide comfort in a very distressing situation. This was just a highlight. This made headlines, and they were very impressed when we did the fracture kits. But those are some of the child or patient-led initiatives that have all been fed in. And I know I'm going through it fast because I know we need to eat. If you want to ask me about any of those projects, each of one of those projects has taken months and dedication to bring it to fruition. And like I've mentioned, we've been doing this for the last 6 years. So it's amazing the amount of publications so that we have been able to inform the research world, but that has translated and actually changed our practice in the clinical world, which is very important to do, because it's one thing to publish a research article, it's another thing to actually provide it into your care that you are working with your patients and families. So we also knew that there were some family-related needs that we needed to help research and to bring back into the clinical realm, looking at the view of the parents and their use of the internet. We saw how the child expresses themselves on the internet, but what are families doing in expressing themselves within the internet? Some are not so easy to discuss, especially being a Shriners fraternity. We have seen that some people are using the GoFundMe pages, but we don't understand the whats and whats and why they're doing that, especially if you're related to the shrine where there's a lot of costs covered. But it's important to get at this information. Why are parents seeking this? What is it about this GoFundMe or the financial struggles of living with a chronic condition that are really burdening our families? So it's one area we've been looking at, but there are so many different dimensions I'm going to show you. These are all of the different initial things of cost-related expenses of living with a chronic illness. So you can imagine it's not just so easy to say, okay, we're going to help you walk through some of your financial issues, or we can even identify them. This is why it's been built into a research project, so that we can go through and really look at what are the issues and what is within our scope to be able to help facilitate and how to guide patients through some challenging times. Now, working collaboratively and having partnerships is absolutely key. You're only going to be better the more you bring together. And you are our key partner from the very beginning. So everything that we have done is because we've had you as a partnership, and by bringing you on board, we've been able to find other partners to help us grow and have that synergistic effect and be able to be ever far-reaching. But in doing some of our research, then there's partners around the world who are also invested in some of the diagnoses that we work with, and both the OI Foundation of Europe as well as the OI Foundation in North America have reached out to us because of the best practice guidelines that our nursing research program has created. They're coming to us and saying, you need to help us redefine the practice guidelines. We know you've done the research, you've published on it, so we need to work together to do that. And that is fantastic for the Shriners organization as a whole, because we are the leaders in that. If some of you heard, we were invited to present at a conference, Quality of Life for OI in Amsterdam, and we delivered over 11 oral presentations at that conference. We had 7 posters, and people from all around the world were reaching out to us because they want to partner, because they know that we are going in the right direction for OI care. And that is just quite fantastic, because we have been able to build the infrastructure to be able to do that and have that type of impact. practice guidelines and to optimize the transfer of care from young adults to adult care, which was one of the initial projects that you came on board with us for. And so here it is, it's published, people are looking at it, and they want to look at how to provide that seamless care based on the research that we have done. But it doesn't stop there. We always want to continue to innovate and look at the different practices that we can do. And this is where we're going to share with you some of a new realm that we're looking at, which is our virtual reality program. And again, this is in partnership with people who are already leaders in the field. We have partnered, and this is in a partnership with different hospitals across the Montreal area and even into Ontario, which really helps us to get a better reach, because we're not recreating the wheel. We're taking the same population that we're working with, and we are showing, or we're testing the material and then seeing if we can make this into regular clinical practice. Because you can't just take a new innovative product and apply it across the board. You have to prove that this is actually effective clinical practice. So I'm going to show you a video, and the sound is not 100%, but it's okay because it might be a little bit easier to watch when the sound is not on, because I am going to demonstrate for you one of the first projects that we have done with virtual reality. And for those faint of heart, it's a little bit difficult to watch because you're going to see a pin removal. You know, when there's a fraction, there's a pin set in. Those just get removed in the cast room. They're not back in the OR, they just get removed in the cast room. And you're going to see it demonstrated here once without the use of virtual reality. Virtual reality is when you put the goggles on and you see a screen or you play a game. And then you're going to see the virtual with this exact same pin removal and the exact same child. They do it 1 minute later with use of the virtual reality. So I'll show it to you, and then I have a few comments to say about that. Is it one hit play? Oh, there we go. Hold on, hold on. It doesn't want to go on the screen. Okay, one moment, one moment. No.
There you go.
There you go. Sound. Sound.
Sorry, we're just going to reopen it.
Next time.
That's okay, we want backup sometimes, so let's see, does this work now? But it's not working on this.